Hello everybody, welcome to Ask Me Anything for the Linchpin Private Track. It is April Fool's Day, April 1st, 2001. Lots of good questions, and we'll dive right in. I think we're only going to be able to get to about two, because, to answer these two questions properly is going to take a bit of time. So question number one, from Dan B. Programming is very complex. You have time domains, pulling from the ground, going overhead, going below parallel, loading, rep range, etc., all which need to be balanced. Despite this, we do a lot of CrossFit named or hero workouts. Can you talk a bit about this? Do you program them because we'll enjoy the classics? Are they all very good balanced workouts? Are they easier or more difficult to incorporate in and around your own programming? Thanks, love the programming and teaching materials made every week. Okay, so here we go. Dan, the simple answer to your question is, do I think people will enjoy the classics? I do. I really do. There's fantastic, beautiful, classic CrossFit benchmark workouts that some people have never heard of. They are fun, they're effective, and I enjoy when we can bring them forward to the world. However, that's not why I program them. I wouldn't program it just because I thought it was fun or people missed it or to be nostalgic. None of that. In my mind, it has to fit what we're doing that day. And if it doesn't fit what we're doing, it doesn't get programmed. Period. End of story. So the number one thing is, does it fit the needs of the community on that day? If it does, super. Next question was, are they all good balanced workouts? There's some terms in there that are loose, and those terms have to be crisp in order to define, for me to answer that question. I can't say whether they are all good or balanced, or if they're not, until you mean, what do you mean by a good workout? What do you mean by a balanced workout? Does a balanced workout mean it has to be perfectly 1/3 gymnastics, 1/3 monostructural, 1/3 weightlifting? Is that a balanced workout, or balanced in some other way? What does a good workout mean? We could go down a rabbit hole of a good or a bad workout and trying to separate fact from opinion for a long time. So I'm not trying to be that guy and nitpick your question, but the wording of the question is important, right? And I understand the essence of the question when you just innocently typed it. So I will answer it in that just innocent way that I assume that you meant it. I think a lot of the CrossFit named classic benchmark workouts are wonderful, beautifully programmed, effective, gorgeous workouts. I really do. And so when one fits, I'm happy to put it in. But I'm not going to wedge one in there or force it in there just to have it in. Okay? And now when I'm creating workouts, the sole determination, or when I'm choosing what to program on a particular day, the sole determination is what we need based upon where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. And luckily, I've got a tremendous amount of classic CrossFit benchmark workouts just lodged into my memory banks. And so if, while I'm programming, I identify what we need and I'm starting to work something up, I might be like, hey, you know what? I'm going down a path that is really similar to fill in the blank, the Chief. I'm like, yeah, the Chief would work. The Chief would work really well. And, maybe it gets programmed on that day. Conversely, I might be like, hey, you know what's really close? Nasty Girls is really close to this. And I put it in, and then when I put it on paper, even though it's really close, it's not perfect. And then you can't be in love with it just because it tugs on your heartstrings or whatnot. So you gotta kick it out of there and get rid of it. And so I only choose a benchmark workout or a hero workout if it fits in line with what I've determined are the needs on any particular day. Period. End of story. Let's see. If one does work, that's fantastic, because if it is a named workout or a repeat workout or a benchmark workout, then most likely we've done it before, and that gives the community the opportunity to compare data, which is a fantastic thing. So that is another added benefit if it does happen to work out. And part of your question was, is it easier or more difficult to incorporate these into programming? And the truth is, making all of this work is why programming takes a very, very long period of time just to do it properly. Because you've got to, again, you've got to look back at where you've been, understand where you are and where you're going, and then you've got to program the workouts out. And then once you get them down on paper, you can't fall in love with them. You need to go over them, review them, do analysis, remove, replace, polish, check it back out again, analyze to make sure everything kind of fell in line with how you wanted it to. Most likely it didn't. Continue to polish, continue to tweak over and over and over again. Sometimes the process happens quicker, sometimes slower, but you can't shortcut that process until finally it's exactly how it should be. And it just takes the time that it takes. It's an in-depth process, and luckily I happen to really enjoy it, or I've gone nuts a long time ago. Like I said before, the tough part is you can't fall in love with what you've programmed. When you lay out several weeks and you get it there, it takes such a long period of time. You have to crunch so many numbers and do so much analysis that you may very much want to make yourself believe that you've created a fantastic week before you have. But if you haven't, you can't fall in love with it. You got to remove, got to replace, got to cut things out, whatever it happens to be, because your goal should be just delivering the most beautiful, elegant, effective week of programming possible. And it is what it is. This can also be why it's difficult and challenging to program for yourself, because it's really, really easy to program more workouts that fall in line with what you want or what you like and that play to your strengths, and not necessarily the workouts that you need. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful symphony of joy and chaos that we do. Okay, question number 2, and this is the one that has a significant answer. This took me down a rabbit hole that I didn't see coming. I've got pages and pages just to answer this next question, which is from Tim K. Tim, where's your question? I think it's near the top. It is. Okay, here we go. This is Tim's question, innocent as it sounds. To what extent do considerations about body weight influence decisions about loading? For example, when choosing the RX load for a workout, do you take into account the average body weight of a male or female athlete? And do we factor in our own weight when deciding whether and how to scale a given workout? I'm taking a sip of my water because here we go. Okay, so body weight considerations influencing loading. Okay, body weight is an interesting topic because people might jump right to in their minds, well, a lighter athlete in general, okay, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but in general, lighter, smaller athletes would probably be not as strong as bigger, larger, heavier athletes. And so when you've got a barbell loading out there that's prescribed, it can be very easy for people's minds to jump to, well, the lighter athlete should have less weight on a thruster, for example, because they're a smaller athlete. And a bigger, heavier athlete should get a heavier barbell because they're a larger athlete, and that would make it, quote-unquote, fair, right? And everybody loves the word fair. However, we are not looking to make working out fair. That is not the goal, to make fair workouts. That becomes a shock to some people. It is not a competition, okay? This is not the open of the games. We're talking about the workouts that you need to do every day to improve your fitness and to drive it forward, okay? And life's not fair, and we don't program to quote-unquote make workouts fair. It's just you versus you. As corny as that saying is, it's 100% true. You're only competing against yourself. Period. End of story. Look to other people if it inspires you and drives you forward in a positive way, but you're only comparing your times, loadings, etc. against where you are in your fitness journey. So we are looking to make workouts that are effective, not necessarily fair, at increasing work capacity across broad time and modal domains, aka increasing your fitness. That's what we're focusing on when we're creating workouts. Now back to the example. Small athlete, let's just, this is just our random example for the day, okay? We're going to have a small athlete that weighs 150 pounds. Maybe they're doing Fran, so their barbell weighs 95 pounds. Then we've got a larger athlete that weighs 220 pounds, so 70 pounds more than that smaller athlete. They have a same thruster weight, 95 pounds. So a 150 pound athlete and a 220 pound athlete both have a 95 pound barbell, which initially doesn't seem quote unquote fair, right? Seems like something should change there. The argument could be made that the smaller athlete needs a heavier barbell and that the heavier athlete needs a lighter barbell. You heard me right on that. Due to the fact that the heavier athlete, who weighs 70 pounds more than the lighter athlete, has to move 70 more pounds of body weight on every single solitary thruster. Sure, they might both have a 95 pound barbell, but there's 70 pounds more body weight. So as potentially counterintuitive as it may be, if we're just having an academic discussion, a hypothetical discussion, a serious argument could be made to give a lighter barbell to the heavier athlete and to give a heavier barbell to the lighter athlete to quote-unquote even it out. But that's not necessarily what we're looking to do. All right, so getting back to the original question. After trials and tribulations and lessons learned over the past couple decades of the world being exposed to CrossFit workouts, some tried and true and some best practices and generally really useful and highly applicable loadings have come to light, and these are the ones that we see on a regular basis. Those have risen to the surface through just best practices and being shown to be highly effective for a broad general swath of the population over the course of several decades now. Okay, however, what needs to be taken into account by the individual athlete, again getting back to loading and when to scale and should I use the prescribed loading and athlete A weighs this and B weighs that, what needs to be taken into account by the individual athlete is the intended stimulus of the workout, and based off of that, a decision can be made as to whether or not it makes sense to go prescribed or to modify or scale in some way, shape, or form. And that's why at Linchpin we are so huge on not just creating fit athletes, but a critical part of what we do is creating smart athletes, intelligent athletes, educated athletes on these topics so that you can make the best decision for you based upon wherever you are in your fitness journey. So let's walk through some examples that maybe will help crystallize this. So we're going to use our 150 pound athlete and our 220 pound athlete. Let's take the classic CrossFit workout, named benchmark workout Fran, 21-15-9, thrusters and pull-ups. Thrusters are at 95 pounds for the gentleman, and in our example we have a 150 pound gentleman and a 220 pound gentleman. So now let's understand, before we have to decide should somebody scale this for both athletes, this is what should be going through their heads, this is what their coach should be having these conversations with them. What's the intent of Fran? Well, it's supposed to be a short and sharp workout. Relatively speaking, shorter time domain, higher intensity. That's what we want to see. We want to keep the athlete moving. Super fitness robot time might be 3 minutes and 30 seconds or less. More likely time could be in the area of 7 minutes or less. So, initial question, do we think both of our athletes could finish in under 7 minutes? Doesn't matter if one beats the other. Doesn't matter if one breaks it up more than the other. If just initially both athletes are like, yes, I could do that workout in 7 minutes, obviously while maintaining safe and beautiful technique, then great. Go ahead and have at it prescribed. Wonderful. Other useful metrics on top of a more likely time or super fitness robot time might be, well, let's say for the thrusters, I wouldn't want you to break each set of thrusters more than once. So you should be able to get through the 21 without putting the bar down more than once. Same with the 15, right? And is that answer a yes or is that answer a no? If the answer is a yes, great. Another tick mark that you might be able to go prescribed. If it's a definite no, we'll talk about scaling the loading, regardless of what your body weight is. Regardless. On the pull-ups, it's kind of same deal. Can you get through the 21s coming off the bar once? Definitely not more than twice. One or two quick, short, tight breaks to get to that 21. Same with the 15, breaking no more than once or twice, or if you do very short, quick breaks. Is the answer, yeah, I could do that. Another check mark towards, I think we're going to have just a fine time with you. It'll be challenging, but it sounds like you could probably do the workout prescribed. If the answer is no to either the times that we threw out, the more likely time of 7 minutes or less, or the metrics that we threw out for thrusters or pull-ups, if the answer is no to those things, well, then we have a discussion about whether it is the thrusters or whether it is the pull-ups, and let's scale in a way that keeps the workout appropriately challenging for that individual, again, regardless of their body weight, right? Regardless of what it happens to be. Now, maybe the smaller athlete struggles with the barbell, the larger athlete struggles with the pull-ups. Whichever one it is, we can handle that. We can lower the thruster loading down. We can have the athlete that's struggling with pull-ups knock it down to ring rows, use a band. Maybe they can go as far as they can kipping, and then once the kip runs out, we've got rings just waiting for them to do ring rows. There's just such a huge number of ways that we can do it, that we can meet that athlete wherever they are. And of course, the opposite is potentially true. Maybe the big athlete is just a beast on the pull-up bar, right? But struggles with the barbell, or vice versa. Wherever they land, we've got something that can help them out. So now let's take those same two athletes, again, different weights, but that didn't really come into play with our scaling decisions, right? It was based upon their capacity. But now we still have our 150-pound athlete and our 220-pound athlete, and we're going to put in a wildly different workout. Now we're going to talk about not Fran, but McGee. You guys remember McGee from a little while ago? 30-minute AMRAP, a 30-minute AMRAP, you heard me properly, of 5 deadlifts, 13 push-ups, and 9 box jumps. The prescribed deadlift loading is 275 pounds for the men, 185 for the women. Box jumps, 24 inches for the men, 20 inches for the women. So right off the bat, you've got a deadlift that heavy in a workout that's 30 minutes long. McGee's a bruiser. There's just no way around it. So enter our 150-pound athlete and our 220-pound athlete. And again, we're largely going to make scaling or modification decisions based upon their capacity, not so much their body weight, okay? So now we look at, well, what are the super fitness robot times and the more likely times? Super fitness robot for this workout, and we'll just handle the men here just to keep it simple. Super fitness robot is 18 rounds or more. More likely rounds, I should say, for men, 14 rounds or more. As innocent as that sounds, it's a lot of work. Let's do the numbers. For the super fitness robot, if you got 18 rounds of McGee, you got in 90 deadlifts at 275 pounds. That's a mountain of work. 90 deads at 275 pounds, 234 push-ups, and 162 box jumps. Crazy. The more likely 14 rounds would still give you 70 deadlifts at 275 pounds, 182 push-ups, and 126 box jumps. So we need to take into account what's the intent of McGee, just like we talked about the intent of Fran. It's a long grinder. It's crazy to say, it's a moderately heavy deadlift. It's slightly on the heavy side, but not obnoxiously so. What makes it obnoxious is the volume, because it goes on for so long. So both strength and stamina will be tested in this long grinder. There's a ton of interference, not only from holding your midline rigid on the push-ups, and then you need your midline when you pick up the barbell, but then the glutes, hamstrings, and posterior chain that are taxed on the deadlift, glutes, hamstrings, posterior chain is what's boing, springing you up to that box for those 9 box jumps every round. So there's a lot of interference in this workout, there's a substantial loading, and there's a very long time domain. And so all of that needs to be taken into account as well. Now, metrics that maybe we would discuss with our athletes or an athlete should have going through their head. This is an AMRAP. It's not supposed to be hard in round 1, 2, or 3. If that's the case, scaling certainly should have happened. It's like if you think about Cindy, 20-minute AMRAP right there. If Cindy's challenging in the first 4 minutes, probably should have scaled. Cindy becomes challenging as the minutes and the reps tick on in that longer time domain. Same deal kind of with McGee. I would want an athlete that with that deadlift loading that they have knows when they pick up that bar that they're going to get the 5 reps every single time, obviously with good form and technique. You might be tired, you might be winded, but you know you can always get another 5 at 275 pounds. If you know you're going to have to break those things up, we're scaling this workout for you, period, end of story. Breaks in the push-ups. Push-ups are 13 per round. Maybe you can do 13 for the first few rounds, but it might actually be smarter to break before you have to so that you can keep going for 30 minutes. If somebody's like, I'm going to go in taking I'm going to do it as 8 and 5 every round, and that's just my plan, and I can hold that, push-ups sound fine to me. You should be good to go. Slow and steady in the box jumps. That's the plan there as well. If those metrics make sense, well, we're moving down the path to our conversation saying that, yep, regardless of your body weight, this might be a workout that you can pursue prescribed. Now, to get to what was the more likely number of rounds on this, which was 14, you basically are doing a round every 2 minutes. Okay, that's a round every 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So now we can also have a conversation matched around that. If the loading's okay for you and the rep ranges are okay for you, do we think that you can hold the pace of about 1 round every 2 minutes to get to what we think is the more likely number of rounds? If that's a no, once again, we're talking about scaling again, and there's nothing wrong with that. Assess it, assess what's realistic, do the math for the overall volume, again as to what 14 rounds would get to you, refer to the metrics, and adjust as necessary. So now, maybe the big guy who was unhappy on Fran, maybe he's happy on McGee. Life's going to be fantastic. And the smaller athlete, a 150-pounder, who thought Fran was fantastic, is now having a very sad day on McGee. Nothing wrong with that. So let's say the smaller athlete is suffering with the barbell loading, just like maybe the bigger athlete suffered with pull-ups on Fran. So our smaller athlete, our 150-pounder, is like, no, 275 pounds over and over again for 30 minutes, not going to happen. Maybe 225 is the right call for them. Or scaling is only limited by your understanding, your education, and your creativity. Who says McGee has to be 30 minutes? Cut it down, make it a 20-minute AMRAP. So maybe that smaller athlete, the 150-pounder, is like, you know what? I could either go 30 minutes with 225 pounds, or I could stick with the prescribed loading of 275 pounds, but I'm going to cut this thing down to 20 minutes to keep the volume more appropriate and stay within my capacity, and I'll still get in plenty of deads at 275. It's going to be a great heavy day at a high heart rate, and mission will be accomplished. That's utterly and completely within the realm of being acceptable also. So I think scaling can be a lot more creative than some people realize. Or let's take it in an entirely different direction. Don't make it an AMRAP. Set the work. Be like, you know what? I'm just going to do 9 rounds for time of McGee. That's what our smaller athlete, the 150-pound athlete, is going to do. Because doing just 9 rounds, so he's going to cap his work, is going to give this athlete 45 deadlifts at 275 pounds. That's a good day in the gym. 117 push-ups and 81 box jumps. Not going to feel like a train hit you the next day. You're going to feel good, and you get in plenty of work. Not going to be shortchanged. So bigger or smaller, bigger athlete or smaller athlete, lighter athlete or heavier athlete, whatever your body weight is, We want to appropriately challenge that athlete based upon their capacity and not unnecessarily beat them up for any reason just because they're maybe chasing what is written down as a prescribed loading. We want to make good, smart decisions. The key is balanced programming and the education of the athlete. Because, here's an idea. If you've got the bigger athlete, the smaller athlete, the lighter, the heavier, the tall athlete, the short athlete, the gymnastic athlete, the athlete that loves the heavy barbell, the woman that loves to run, like whatever, you've got this mix of people, all of them should be happy on different days and challenged, or sad if you want, on other days. If the big, heavy athlete that loves the heavy barbell, hates gymnastics and hates running, is happy every single day because every day the workout falls in line with their strengths, it's an indication that you're not having balanced programming with wonderful variance. If every day the small athlete that's just a bodyweight ninja is super happy and winning every workout and there's never heavy loading, well, that's also an indicator that things aren't balanced and appropriate. If truly what you're chasing is GPP, general physical preparedness, increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains fitness, then we have to have different athletes are going to be happy on different days and sad on different days. And somebody that had to scale on Monday may not have to scale on Tuesday, and vice versa, because we're exposing all of these different athlete types to such a wide range of stimulus. Then things are most likely happening in a very good direction. So intelligent variance is a huge deal, and again, regardless of what the athlete happens to weigh, their height or whatnot, we're going to scale based upon when that new workout is faced by that athlete. We present them with information of what the volume will be, what the loading will be, what the intended stimulus will be, what some of the goal times or rounds are. We assess that athlete's, or they assess their own capacity, and then with the knowledge of how to scale and what's appropriate, a decision is made that helps propel them forward. So, yeah, that's that. Scaling is really cool, and it can be challenging to maybe wrap your head around initially, but then once you start to get it, which is my goal for everybody, it's such a powerful tool to know, because then wherever you are, whatever gear you do or don't have, you can look at the gear, look at the time window that you have, assess your own capabilities, and make the best decision possible to get in a very smart workout that day so that you are, again, appropriately challenged and you can just drive forward with your training. So it's one of our huge goals here at Linchpin. It's exactly why we do these Ask Me Anythings. Okay, we will end with 3 cool screen grabs that I got off of the Private Track Facebook group. The first one was from Catherine N. She posted this basically saying that she, because of lockdown, had been using the limited equipment option, which is just our dumbbell workouts, obviously, for 5 months. No barbell for 5 months at all. Finally got to go work out with a friend, had a barbell, had a squat rack, and it was on the day that we programmed 4 sets of 7 front squats. And a good percentage to use for those front squats was going to be in like the 60 to 65% range. Would be a really nice place to be for sets of 7. And she went ahead, slid under the barbell for sets of 7 after not touching a barbell for 5 months, and was able to hold 62% of what was her 1 rep max months and months ago when she did have a barbell in her hand. So basically she said that was extremely cool. That means 5 months of the limited equipment option means that I did not lose any of my gains. So those dumbbells are fantastic and they're powerful, and so if you have to be using them, you're not going to be shortchanged. Okay. This post was from Michael K, and this made me very happy about our community just being very cool, kind, and positive. He posted a video of him back squatting, and People can be very mean in other places in social media, but they're not in our Facebook group, which is incredible. He basically asked, like, is this squat below parallel, yes or no? And it wasn't, okay? It wasn't, and everyone let him know that it wasn't, but in a kind, polite, and courteous manner, and then offered ways to, maybe he could use like a medicine ball with this thing as a guide, or hey, this worked for me, or check this out, or maybe if you shoot this at this angle, we might be able to see it better. And it was just great to see people interacting on what can be a subject that sometimes on other social media platforms people want to rip each other apart, and no one did this. So first of all, thanks to Michael for being so cool and trusting the community so much to post this video and ask others, hey, how do I look? And then big shout out to the Linchpin community for responding in just a totally respectful, kind manner. It warmed my heart, and that was awesome. Finally, Raphael. This one's about double unders. So basically, says he hit a big milestone, started the private track in December of 2020. He's over in Poland. Double unders have always been a problem. Couldn't do more than 2 double unders in a row. And of course, we work in on not-for-time workouts every now and then to, don't worry about running a clock, make it a practice day. If maybe there's 50 double unders per round and you struggle with double unders, maybe you just look at the clock for 45 seconds and you do as many honest double under attempts as you can in that 45-second period. Then don't worry about it, set the rope down, move on to the next movement, and little by little, you start to get better, start to get better, and start to get better. And so, said finally, it's only taken since December, he did a workout that had 4 rounds with 60 double unders in each round, and he also hit a personal PR in his longest streak of 13 double unders in a row. So, going from only getting 2 to now getting 13, and from not being able to put them in workouts at all to now doing a 4-round workout that had 60 per round is a huge accomplishment. And congrats to you, Raphael, for your hard work. It's obviously paid off. So that's that. I hope everybody is enjoying the remainder of their rest day. I'm going to enjoy mine. Our little man has a lacrosse game tonight, so I'm going to go check that out. And other than that, I will see everybody back here tomorrow.